And welcome to today's special event. We thank you for joining us today to celebrate Colonel Timothy Schaefer's 30 years of dedicated service as he retires from the United States Army. On behalf of the Commander, Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, Lieutenant General Sean Gainey, I extend a warm welcome to the military and civilian personnel, family, and friends who have joined us today. I am Chief Master Sergeant Michael Payuyo. I will be your narrator for today's ceremony. At the appropriate times, I will provide cues for when to stand and when to be seated. We thank you for your support and attendance today. During the playing of the musical honors, military members in uniform will face the individual being honored and stand at attention. During the playing of the national anthem, military members will stand at attention while civilian attendees place their hand over over their heart. As a reminder, please silence all electronic devices. The ceremony will begin shortly. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the rendering of honors and the playing of the national anthem, followed by the invocation delivered by Chaplain Perry.
I invite you to pray in your faith as I pray in mine. Let us pray. Father in heaven, as family, friends, and mentors, we gather in honor and gratitude for the decades of service and sacrifice of Colonel Timothy Schaefer. Colonel Schaefer is a gifted leader and mentor. We give thanks for his special ability to influence others across all components and services and the lasting impact he leaves on the air defense and joint service communities. His passion for service, mentoring, and caring for others is a legacy that will carry its impact long into the future. We give thanks for his family, friends, and mentors here to honor him for the compassion and care he has expressed for so many over his years of service, and acknowledge the sacrifices and courage of all families that serve alongside their servant leaders, and ask for your protection upon them. The bonds created through the forge of military service is a treasure to be cherished. Bless and nurture these relationships as Colonel Schaefer moves forward in life. Help us to carry forward the legacy of Tim as he faithfully carried on the legacy of others. We recognize your goodness in giving us this nation, its constitution, its leaders, and the men and women who defend our freedoms. Protect those in harm's way and all who vigilantly defend our nation and our freedom at home and abroad. Guide our nation's leaders and help them come together that our nation's light will continue to burn brightly for freedom and liberty around the world. Grant those honoring Colonel Schaefer today wisdom and your strength, that their words will express adequately your gratitude for a life of service. Grant these blessings, we pray, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Perry, for your inspiring words. Please be seated. We are honored to have many special guests with us today. Please hold your applause until each group has been recognized. We have spouse of Colonel Schaefer, Patty Schaefer, parents of Mrs. Schaefer, Rick and Sue Hyatt, sister and family of Mrs. Schaefer, Marcia and David Washington, with kids, Maddie, Ella, and Gary. As well, remotely, we have mother of Colonel Schaefer, Gail Schaefer, Colonel Schaefer's sister-in-law and family, Bethany Schaefer, with Peyton, Braden, and Colton. Additionally, please welcome the Commander, Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, Lieutenant General Sean Gainey. Finally, we would like to extend a warm welcome.
Normally that's how it works.
To all general officers, directors, senior enlisted leaders, military personnel, Department of Defense civilians, contractors, friends, retired veterans, and family who are all able to join us today. It is my great honor to introduce our presiding official for today's ceremony, the Commander, Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, Lieutenant General Sean A. Gainey.
Okay, I jumped the gun a little bit. I was excited. Not that I'm excited to push Tim into retirement. It's just normally, as soon as I sit down, it's General Gainey, and I'm up and speaking. So, what a great day, and what an honor it is for me to preside over the retirement ceremony for Tim today. How do you recognize 30 years of service in a short ceremony? Well, you really don't. But what I'll do today is try to set the stage for him as he transitions into retirement. And I heard retirement's pretty good. Everybody that I've talked to, I don't know, but everybody I've talked to says it's pretty good. But before we get started today, I would like to highlight a few people. One of the first persons I would like to highlight is Tabitha Higgins, one of our Gold Star spouse, who is here today. Thank you, and thank you for being here today. It's great to see all of our teammates out here. It's great to see Northcom. John, great for you to be out here. Spacecom out here representing part of the team. We have such a great relationship with JIVIC IMD, with Spacecom, and we're trying to develop one with Northcom, so it's appropriate both of you being here. But before I talk about Tim, I'd like to highlight the family first, starting with Patty. Whenever you have a military career, the family piece is the most important part of that, and the sacrifices that are endured over 30 years, you've lived it from the beginning, all the way from departing out of college, kind of wondering what he was doing with this ROTC stuff, and eventually heading off to Korea, to the full being part of the FRG groups, whether it's Battery Command, Battalion Command at Fort Campbell, and being recognized, Fort Campbell Spouse of the Year, and at a location where we know heavy op tempo, and to be recognized is truly impressive. So thank you for everything you've done for him. He had the easy job, and appreciate everything you've done. So thank you. So Chief Payuyo highlighted the family. Rick and Sue, great for you all to be here. Oh, the camera is on pressure, no pressure at all for being here. And Gail Schaefer on live stream as part of us with here today. So where do I start? I think I'll start with, one of the things I always ask whoever's retiring, what made you join? What made you say, hey, I want to take that step and be something bigger than myself? Well, in Tim's case, everybody's different, and everybody has a different way to do things. Well, in Tim's case, Tim went to Southern Illinois, Salukis. I don't know how many of you all are familiar with Southern Illinois out there, a few of you all. But evidently, I learned something. Tim told me Southern Illinois was number one,
Top 10, yes, sir.
number 1, 2, 3, 4 top party in school in America, college. So I didn't know there was such a thing. I went to a college that I thought was a pretty good party school. We had a great time. So I had to go look up this list to see where my university ranked, and we weren't even in the top 100. So I can only imagine if you were actually codified in the top 5, the type of partying that went on in that university is truly impressive. But so what made him join? So those of you, how many of you have seen the movie Stripes? A few, yeah, mostly everybody. So there's a scene in there, Bill Murray just gets through partying, he's drinking a lot, and he rolls off of the couch, and he lays there, and his friend bets him how many push-ups he can do. And he bet him, and he did the push-ups, but he just laid there and kind of fell flat. And then a commercial came on, Be All You Can Be, and he said, you know what, I gotta change my life. I gotta join the Army. That's why he joined. That story was about him. So when he was telling me this, that's what I was visualizing as he was saying. He said, you know what, sir, I was bored, I was partying, and I knew I had to do something different. And they gave me a 3-year scholarship to do it. So first thing I asked him, I was like, because he also told me how he was chasing Patty since he was in grade school, and she finally took him serious when they got into college. And I said, what did Patty say when you told her? He's like, well, she kind of figured I was just in some other club or something. I don't think she fully realized that it was a path for me to go into the Army. Well, it was. And I tell you, boy, did you make the right decision. And as I talk about Tim, we joke about why he joined, but I believe there was something else. There was something in him that made him want to serve, and like I highlighted earlier, be a part of something bigger than himself. Large part of that is your parents, the way they raised you, the morals and values they instilled in you. But also, he had a grandfather that was in World War II, 1st Infantry Division, and was part of the Omaha Beach landing. So that's pretty powerful. So when you hear those stories, and Tim got the opportunity to go back and walk the ground, which is pretty special, those of you that have had that opportunity. So I believe there was something else that made him join. So off he joined, and off he was running. First duty assignment, 5580A, 2nd Infantry Division, Korea. So like all good air defenders, we made him a platoon leader, and he was a platoon leader the entire year. After spending that time in Korea, he wanted to continue to be a platoon leader, so he went to one of our other storied battalions, 24488, Rich Battalion at 24488, supporting 101st at the time. I don't believe y'all had switched under the Great Spartan Brigade yet, but was still under 101st and continued to be a platoon leader and spend a lot of platoon leader time and wasn't rushing to other jobs and got to actually be a platoon leader. So after doing that job, it was then time to, as a great air defense or great officer, as a captain, command. Got the opportunity to go to 1st Cav Division 4580A. And as you hear me talk these formations and organizations, you can see that Tim really cut his teeth in some of the tough jobs, some of our storied divisions and really learned his craft. And at that time that he was at 1st Cav Division is when 9/11 happened. So as you can imagine, being an air defender in CONUS with everything going on with the NCR, and also his battalion had the responsibility to provide the capability to the President's Ranch there in Texas and support the Blazing Skies mission inside of the NCR. And he did it well. And he did it so well, the Army rewarded him, sent him back to college, to be a ROTC assistant PMS at the University of Maine. So he did that for 3 years, and then the Army said, okay, it's time to send you back to some of the tough assignments. So we sent him to JROTC, Fort Polk, Louisiana, where he served as a observer controller. And also what you have to be cognizant of at the time, the Air Defense Branch was going through significant change, which means we were building our Patriot THAAD force, but we were divesting in our short-range air defense capabilities. And being at a CTC at that time, as a former OC, I can only imagine the ways you were leveraged. And he stepped right up, and he essentially just integrated part of the team. And in his 24 months, worked through 24 MREs, because during the surge, you can only imagine the level of op tempo at our CTCs and the work that was asked of him. And so after completing that job, not that he had enough, but then he's off to 10th Mountain Division. And again, you heard me talk about how we divested of our divisional air defense battalions. Tim was probably one of the stubborn one. I had a lot of peers that grew up with me, said, I'm not going to a Patriot unit, I don't care, I'll go kicking and screaming, send me wherever. So the Army said, okay, we'll send you to a BSTB inside of 10th Mountain Division. And he took on that challenge and did it very well. Went with the division, the brigade to Iraq, spent the times, served as a 3 and partially as an XO as that time. And then as he completed that, he said, maybe some of this high altitude air and missile defense stuff isn't that bad. So he jumped on an opportunity to go to the J-31 in NORTHCOM. And really the light came on to him. And he said, what have I been missing all of these years as a divisional ADA officer? And he was hooked. We had him hooked. Not hooked enough though, because when it came down to battalion command, he was able to go back to 244 ADA. And again, one of our storied ADA battalions, and the level of op tempo inside of that battalion is truly amazing. And Tim, being part of the Great Spartan Brigade as 244 and deploying his formation to Afghanistan during that time frame as a battalion commander, truly impressive work. As he completed that assignment, then again, continuing to broad him, Joint Staff J5, and in the branch, we send our best former battalion commanders to the Joint Staff J5, because what that position does with policy, a lot of work with our Israeli partners, a lot of time spent there developing the work that the partnership that we had with Israel. Did that so well, we then sent them to USARA. Now, he went to a job that I stood up in USARA, the AMD cell. And as I stood up the AMD cell, one of the things that I was very impressed with in USARAF was the G3 and the op tempo inside of that organization, like no other I've seen, because of the varying missions inside of there. Well, Tim did my old job so well, they gave him 2 more jobs. So obviously I wasn't doing that well. They didn't give me any other jobs, but they gave him 2 additional jobs, and eventually he became the deputy G3. Truly impressive for a command with the type of op tempo that USARAF has. And because he did that job so well, they sent him to CTAF to be the G3 there. So again, as much as we wanted to pull him back into the air missile defense fold, he continued to press on and do very well regardless of what he was asked to do. And then we brought him back into the fold, brought him back to Colorado to enjoy. Part of it was probably because of your love for outdoors and the opportunity to enjoy Colorado as the deputy JFIC IMD, and really a position that, you know, a one-star position for a reason, because of the demand on this command, you know, split between JFIC IMD and SMDC with the several hats. Tim had my complete trust, and that's the best compliment I can give any officer. I did not have to second guess. I did not have to ask. Tim just called me and would let me know how, if we had any issues or any challenges, and you did very well, and truly amazing performance. And I tell you, as you transition into retirement, thank you for everything you've done. Those 30 years, it's amazing, it's probably just blown by, and now you're looking up and can't believe this day is here. Well, I tell you, thank you, and Patty, for everything that you have both done on behalf of the Army, and we wish you best as we send you off to retirement. And we may be giving you a call. So, all right, thanks again, appreciate everything, and who?
Please stand for the reading of the medal citation. Attention to orders. The Defense Superior Service Medal is awarded to Colonel Timothy R. Schaefer. Colonel Timothy R. Schaefer, United States Army, distinguished himself by superior meritorious service in a position of significant responsibility as Deputy Commander for the Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, United States Space Command, Schriever Space Force Base, Colorado, from July 2023 to August 2025. Colonel Schaefer led the organization through the move of the Transregional Missile Defense Mission from the United States Strategic Command to United States Space Command. The distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Schaefer culminated in a long and distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Space Command, the United States Army, and the Department of Defense. Please remain standing for the reading of the retirement order. Attention to orders. Order number 1270043, dated 07 May 2025. The people of the United States express their thanks and gratitude for your faithful service. Your contributions to the defense of the United States of America are greatly appreciated. You are released from active duty on 31 August 2025 and placed on the retired list on 1 September 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Colonel Schaefer will receive the certificate of appreciation from the Commander-in-Chief. It reads, Colonel Timothy R. Schaefer, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of our nation during the critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and the spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of the military service. I trust that in the coming years, you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you serve. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our American freedoms. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Signed, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief. Colonel Schaefer will receive the certificate of retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. It reads, to all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Colonel Timothy R. Schaefer, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the 31st day of August 2025. Signed, Randy A. George, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. Colonel Schaefer will now receive a thank you letter from the Commander of the United States Space Command, General Whiting. It reads, Tammy and I want to offer our sincere congratulations as you embark on this exciting new chapter of your life. After 30 years of dedicated service to the United States Army and our nation, you've earned this well-deserved retirement. Your commitment, hard work, and leadership have made a significant impact on the United States Space Command, your previous organizations, and everyone fortunate enough to have served alongside you. Your legacy of excellence will be remembered for years to come. Signed, Stephen N. Whiting, General, United States Space Force Commander. Colonel Schaefer will now receive a thank you letter from the Commander, Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, Lieutenant General Gainey. It reads, the men and women of Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense join Vera and me in expressing our gratitude for your 30 years of exemplary service to the nation and the United States Army. Your outstanding service to this command culminated as the Joint Functional Component Command Deputy Commanding Officer to the United States Space Command is greatly appreciated. Your expert knowledge, leadership, keen insight, technical expertise, and willingness to always go the extra mile is indicative of your commitment to the nation. You can be justifiably proud of your many accomplishments. We thank you for your job well done and wish you the very best in your future endeavors. Signed, Sean A. Gainey, Lieutenant General, United States Army Commander. At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Schaefer to come forward and affix Colonel Schaefer's retirement pin.
Old school.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the Public Service Commendation Medal to Mrs. Patty Schaefer. Attention to orders. The Public Service Commendation Medal is awarded to Patricia Schaefer for her extraordinary energy, humility, and passion to her family, soldiers, and the nation. Mrs. Schaefer's dedication to promoting and supporting the United States Army has made her a role model. Her selfless service and untiring efforts bring great credit upon herself, the Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, the United States Army Space and Missile Defense Command, and the United States Army. Signed, Sean A. Gainey, Lieutenant General, United States Army Commanding. Mrs. Patty Schaefer is also receiving a certificate of appreciation. It reads, to all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Mrs. Patricia Schaefer, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped us to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation. Signed, Randy A. George, General, United States Army Chief of Staff. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Patty has received thank you letters from the Commander, United States Space Command, which reads, on behalf of the United States Space Command and grateful nation, I want to personally thank you for the steadfast support you've shown Timothy throughout his 30 years of service. Your sacrifices as his spouse have been a cornerstone of his success, enabling him to make significant contributions to the defense of our nation. As you and your family step into this exciting new chapter, I wish you continued health, happiness, and success in all your future endeavors. Please know that you will always remain an important part of the United States Space Command family, and we are grateful for all you have done. Signed, Stephen N. Whiting, General, United States Space Force Commanding. Patty has also received a thank you letter from Commander Jessica M.D., which reads, on the occasion of your husband's retirement from the United States Army, we would like to take this opportunity to express the thanks and gratitude of this command for your selfless support to Tim and the nation. You have done much for our soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, Guardians, and their families. As a key member of the United States Army family, your support has not gone unnoticed, and your efforts are sincerely appreciated. As you and your husband transition to the next chapter in your lives, we would like to express our sincere thanks to both of you for your dedication and commitment. We wish you and your family good health, happiness, and prosperity. Signed, Sean A. Gainey, Lieutenant General, United States Army, Commanding. Thank you, General Gainey and Patty. Please be seated. We will now begin a flag presentation which culminates in the closing chapter in a soldier's career. The flag presented today was flown at Peterson Space Force Base, Cheyenne Mountain Space Force Station, Schriever Space Force Base, Fort Carson, and Camp Smith, Hawaii, in honor of Colonel Schaefer's 30 years of dedicated service. On behalf of the men and women of JFIC IMD and those who served with Colonel Schaefer throughout his career, we present our nation's flag. Our nation is made proud and distinguished by the men and women who have served under its banner. The flag of the United States of America, America's history, overflows with accounts of our brothers and sisters who, under arms, dedicated themselves, their efforts, and their very lives to the defense of our nation. In each account, our flag waves proudly in the smoke and danger of battle, announcing the presence of the defenders of liberty. Colonel Schaefer spent 30 years serving his country under the shadow of this flag. Today, as we retire Colonel Schaefer, after 30 years of distinguished service to this country, we also retire a symbol that accompanied the onward and upward trajectory of his illustrious career. Colonel Schaefer, as you retire today, we entrust you with the care and safety of the greatest American symbol, the flag of our United States of America. American service members have proudly flown this flag in every major conflict on lands, seas, and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we have as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to present to you Colonel Timothy Schaefer, United States Army, retired.
All right, let's see how this goes. Yeah. All right. General Gainey, General Meyer, Mr. Cuniff, Mr. Yu, thank you, distinguished guests, family, friends, JFIC, everybody else. Thanks for being here. And I do also understand this is the one time it was voluntary to show up, so thank you very much. Probably did help we had make this an alternate work spot, so it's not a bad deal to come get some free food and get paid for it. General Gainey, thank you. Thank you for presiding today. Thank you for making the trip out for this. And thank you for your remarks. It has been a true honor working for you. The JFIC job is pretty cool for an 06 because the boss lives in Huntsville, Alabama. And so you're about as far away from the flagpole as you can get. And I have been incredibly blessed to work for two amazing commanders with Dan Karbler and now General Gainey, who really have allowed me to lead the organization on a daily basis without a whole lot of supervision, which some in the room might say was a really bad idea, but it seemed to work for us. And so I had the opportunity in this job to really kind of represent him at a pretty high level across Colorado Springs, and not just here, but in DC and everywhere else. And it was kind of nice because I could kind of stay within his guidance and do what I needed to do. And then when I got myself in trouble and I needed the 3 stars, I could hit the star cluster, and he would usually come in to help. So, sir, thank you very much for everything and for your mentorship, your leadership, and your trust over the time you've been here. Chaplain, thank you for coming in today. That's the right way to start the ceremony, is reflecting on faith and reflecting on what it took to get, with that faith to get me where I am today. So thank you very much. And then the last crew I'm gonna thank to start this off is the crew that did all the work to put this together. Cap Mainhart in the back there, Christy Weeks with the camera, Miss Tabbert, who, when she took the volunteer to take this on, she was still employed by the U.S. government, and now she is working on her doctorate, and so she has moved on to bigger and better things. And then Chief, my battle buddy, thank you for all of your help putting this together. So 30 years, a long time, and as the boss said, it went by really fast. And as I've looked back at those experiences and some of the things he talked about, it has been a heck of a run. And had somebody told me 30 years ago, as I commissioned about a little bit about this time, that I was still gonna be here 30 years later, I would've laughed at you. And I think most of us can say that when we look back. But I expected the 4 years and out, like most of us think we're gonna do when we start this. About a month ago, I had an opportunity to go back to my alma mater, and I was a commissioning official and speaker for the commissioning ceremony for the Army ROTC program back in Carbondale. And I told the cadets, or lieutenants at that point, about to be lieutenants, all the great things about servant leadership and taking care of people, lead from the front, leaders eat last, all those great bits of wisdom that we pick up over the years that we do this. But I closed it out with the most important thing is relationships. And how we get everything done in our career is relationships. And for those folks that have worked alongside me over the years, I'd like to think that I modeled that through about, relationships is how we get things done. And that's kind of where I'm gonna go the next 10 or so minutes, if you all will indulge me, as I kind of talk about some of those relationships and the folks that have really humbled me by coming out today. I have been very fortunate to work for some amazing leaders. General Gainey being one of them. General Meyer, who's here today. Northcom today is the chief of staff, but went back to, there's that weird short period of time in a senior officer's life where you start to cross rank bands. So there was a very brief window where I called him John, when we were both colonels in the joint staff, when he was General Dunford's exec. Then he, of course, continued rapidly on, and I sat and watched. Working in the Pentagon is hard. I don't care, well, all right, let me take that back. Experiences may vary working in the Pentagon. There's a lot of really hard jobs in the building, and there's some that they were the same ones at 3:30 every day. If you got in the wrong turnstile coming in the building, you were gonna get run over. I did not have one of those jobs, and neither did he. And so, great opportunity to interact with him, because there was some stuff going on I'll talk about that I spent a little bit more time in the front office than I would have liked. And so I got to interact with him quite a bit. And then had the great fortune when I was in Germany, he came in to become the G3 of U.S. Army Europe and Africa at that point. We had just kind of reflagged over. And, being his deputy was an amazing experience to get to work with him and Kelly, get to know the family. And so, sir, thank you for your mentorship over the years, and thank you very much for coming out today. And I'll kind of continue on the front row a little bit, because again, some senior leaders up here from SpaceCom and Northcom, Mr. Cuniff, we'll talk about a little bit later, but we crossed over our paths again in Germany as well, as he was working at AFRICOM, and I was down in Italy at CTAF. And then Mr. Yu, thank you for being here from SpaceCom today. JFIC IMD alumni, but has moved up now and is here on behalf of SpaceCom today. So gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. And I've had, some other amazing, great leaders from, battalion commanders, senior leaders I've worked for, guys like the names of Cavoli and Townsend and Carilla, some names that are out there right now in our world. But some amazing people to learn from. And one of the neat things about the Army is you learn from everybody. Hopefully good, you learn some bad, and you take what you need and you move on. But I want to recognize some of those great leaders today. And then I want to talk about teammates. Because that really is the bread and butter of what we do. And all those great things that General Gainey talked about, that wasn't me. I was just a pretty face. What it really was those teammates that I was serving with around the years. So I'm gonna kind of start early with folks that are here today. And I'm gonna skip a couple of years just because I don't have anybody from those years. I'm gonna start at Fort Hood as a battery commander, and joined today by two great teammates. Boss mentioned Tabitha. her husband Tristan was one of our fellow commanders, Steve Libby, next to Alpha Battery, Bravo Battery, HHB, with the three of us. And first team, you know, living that legend that goes on there. 9/11 happens, all hell breaks loose. I find myself, and Rob Weeks, forgot about Rob, as actually was one of my platoon leaders for a period of time. And all hell breaks loose after 9/11. And as you can imagine, at a major deployable unit, we were locked in for 3 days, I think, before we ever even got to go home after that. And soon after, I get called, bypass the battalion commander, bypass the three, straight to me going, you need to come to division headquarters right now. Okay, it's a little odd. And I went up and basically got the task of get out to Crawford, Texas, do a site survey, and figure out what you're going to do to defend the president when he comes out to Texas to the range. And for the next, Rob, we did that for quite a while. We would go out every time the president came out. We would put a minimum of radar in a C2 element. Occasionally we went a little heavier. And we did that right up until, I think, April, May, when we took the battalion to Washington, D.C. for what's called Exercise Blazing Skies. And how would we defend the nation or defend the Capitol if we needed to? And we put there's pictures out there, Avengers and Sentinel radars all over D.C. I've got great pictures of my radars next to the Washington Monument down on the river. Well, let's look back. All that stuff is still there. All these years later, that mission has continued. That the first 4-5 and the first team started back in 2002. You know, we had a great team. We had a great team, first team. But Jeff Cobb, I don't know if Jeff's watching today, is battalion commander, but became just a really tight-knit family as we did a lot, deploying at NTC over and over again. We sent teams to the Middle East pretty quick after that. I put 2 radars out with one of our batteries. But just a great opportunity. And so I'll come back to Tabitha and Tristan here in a little bit. But I want to start with my teammates there at 4-5 and all the great things we did. Went on, did a few more things with some school. And then, as I said, went up to Fort Drum, or boss said, went up to Fort Drum. And again, I was that guy that I was not going to a Patriot unit. No, I joined the Army to be a short-range air defense artillery officer, and that's where I was going to stay. At Fort Polk and JRTC, after those 24 rotations of putting people together to go downrange, and if you think about it, that was a minimal of a rotation a month. And Fort Polk, Texas, or Fort Polk, Louisiana, for those who haven't been there, not the nicest place in the country. It's hot, and it's hot. And trying to do 2 weeks in the field, come out for a couple weeks, maybe a couple weeks, go back in for 2 weeks. It was pretty brutal. And oh, by the way, trips to Iraq in the middle of that to go do some lessons learned out, coach and contact. So we actually did the 101st, we put all 4 brigades from the 101st through in 2 months. So it was out for 2 weeks, in for 3 days, out for 2 weeks, in for 3 days. That was the start. But we got done there, but I did a lot of non-air defense stuff at that time because we did start to get rid of the air defense capability. And I made some contacts with some great leaders, and a guy named Dave Miller brought me to Fort Drum and said, "Hey Tim, come with me. I got you taken care of," and threw me straight into a Battalion 3 job in a Special Troops Battalion. For those of you that don't know, is kind of the island of misfit toys for an infantry brigade. Everything that doesn't fit into an infantry battalion, a field artillery battalion, a logistics battalion, or a fires battalion goes in the BSTB. So I had signal, MPs, chemical, engineers, military intelligence, everything else. And then when we deployed, so it's about a 600 person organization. When we deployed to Iraq, we got up to about 1,500 people because all the attachments, EOD, PSYOP, civil affairs. I ended up with 2 infantry companies because we had battle space that had previously belonged to the 3rd of the 82nd. Rolled over to a battalion, and I owned a huge chunk of West Baghdad. So that's what I did for those 2.5 years in that brigade, was work maneuver, which you'll see a trend as I keep bouncing back and forth to the air defense community and back in the maneuver world. But one of my teammates there, Ryan Levere, is here today. He was up on the brigade staff, and he got to watch me try to figure this whole maneuver thing out, how to not be an air defender and kind of talk maneuver. But again, great teammates up there as we deployed downrange. And that was my first full long combat deployment at that point. And we all, those of us that have done that know how those things go. And we were very fortunate. We brought almost everyone home, and got done with that, and came to NORTHCOM. And within I think it was I was out of Iraq by 3 weeks, and I was reporting to NORTHCOM. And again, a great opportunity for a young officer that's never worked at a higher level to start to get their eyes opened up to what the Department of Defense, the Joint Force is all about. I rolled in and I went to become a watch officer, which is a pretty good gig. You work 8 hours, and then somebody comes in and they need your seat, so you get to go home because you can't really stay there. They left me on the watch for about a year, and then pulled me back, and I rolled into the current ops section. And if everybody remembers kind of 2010 to 2013 timeframe, we had this short fat man in Korea that was just really belligerent. He would go shoot missiles all the time. And at that point in time, this was kind of new. It wasn't as routine as we see it today. We had some great leaders. We had Admiral Winnefeld and then General Jacoby. And they were all into this, and they were very much, they were the decision makers if we had to shoot in defense of the nation. I spent a lot of quality time with General Jacoby, to include sitting on his couch on a Saturday, waiting for a missile to launch, eating, his wife making me sandwiches, and just hanging out. But great teammates, again, that have come in today. Steve Allen, who was our deputy at our time, Kyle Kingsford, who was our CUOPS deputy and had a chance to work really close with Kyle. Dave McDill, who was one of our watch officers, and then the other neat part about that job was we got to work in the ops center. You work with, this is my first opportunity to really work joint. And my first crew I came on to, Echo Crew, we had these crew directors, CCDs, and this was my first opportunity to really work with other services. And there was this awesome Navy captain who was a CCD named Mark Sturgis, who's here today. And this was that first opportunity of starting to kind of continue to get out of my comfort zone. Because the missile defense officer, really important if there's missiles in the air, not so important when there's, an Operation Noble Eagle, there's an aircraft thing or something else. So the CCDs would occasionally, if they had a decent MDO, I like to think I was okay, would put a lot on the MDO because he didn't have much to do in some of those instances. So one of the things you'll always see, look at the dais at NORTHCOM that CCDs are, these guys are balancing 4 phones at one time. They're talking to the White House, they're talking to the Pentagon, they're talking to the NORTHCOM commander, they're talking to everybody. Well, Mark would very occasionally be like, hey, Tim, pick that one up, talk to the boss. And he would throw those phones at me to help back him up as stuff was going on. And that was, and I felt that with Mark, but I felt that with other CCDs I worked with as well. So to the NORTHCOM team, thanks for kind of opening this up, joint world up to me and making me want to come back to it as much as I did. And Mark, that year was pretty special, and I appreciate your leadership for the crew, which was a really, really busy year. Oh yeah, our Echo Crew had to do something else that was really cool. We got to shoot a GBI. So about $120 million on the word of a phone, over a phone of weapons release authorized for track, whatever it was at that point, I don't remember. And so that was pretty cool. So got done with NORTHCOM, and as the boss said, became probably the best assignment I've had in the Army. And that was, I got selected to go back to Fort Campbell and command the Strike Fear Battalion. And I'd been a lieutenant there. At that point, there was 2 short-range battalions that were left. It was 5.5 and 2.44, both of what I'd served with before, and I wanted Strike Fear more than anything. And I'm sitting on crew one morning doing a pro shift, and General Jacoby happened to walk by me, and all he said was, "Morning, Strike Fear 6," and he kept walking. This was the day before the list got released. And that, what? And that's when I found I was gonna take the battalion. So I went in and took the battalion, and already had one battery had just blew out the door to Afghanistan on a very short notice deployment. And about 2 months after I got on the ground, we got the order to deploy the rest of the battalion. And it'd be really neat, battalions deployments are cool when you do what you normally do on a daily basis. That wasn't what we got tapped to do. We had 90 days to completely retrain, reorganize, and re-equip the battalion to go to Afghanistan to do what was called counter-rocket artillery and mortar. Now, the sense and warn piece of that, find the things, and the giant voice that goes off and tells you to duck, that had been in Afghanistan for a while, but what had never been in Afghanistan was the guns. And what we took in to a number of locations was actually a weapon system to shoot that stuff out in the air.
And we put guns at Rocket City, Fob Shank, which was the highest volume of incoming fire at that time. We went to Bagram, the most critical base in Afghanistan, and we got ready to put guns at 2 other locations before we left. And then the other thing was we took control of all of that sense of warrant across the entire country. The year before we got on the ground, there were over 30 killed in action from indirect fire at those bases, and the wounded in action was over 100. In the 18 months after we got on the ground, from Bravo getting in through the battalion turning over to 5-5 at the end of that, there had been 1 KIA and 7 WIA at the time we got on the ground. And what's interesting was volume of fire increased because we ticked the bad guys off so much because they weren't having an effect. So they just doubled the rate of fire. And I'm pretty lucky today. I'm joined by 2 of my battery commanders, Rich Lewis and Josh Lyons, 2 of the guys that went down range with me. And then Mr. Taylor, who was one of our smart ones that could make everything talk. That's really hard when your battle space is the size of the entire country and making all of the digital stuff work. And so really grateful for you guys coming in today. Josh is here in town, but Rich flew in from DC, so I think you get the prize for furthest traveled. And Mr. Taylor came in from Oklahoma. So thanks for you guys coming. And then got done with that and went off to school again, hung out at National War College, go Warriors for a year, try to get smart, and got a whole lot more joint time in working with that, but not just joint DOD, joint all of government. And that's where the relationship thing really took note. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then I went over, I'm gonna tell the story, and I've told the boss this one once. So I actually came home from school one day and I had in my hand my orders to Hawaii to go be the G3 of 94th AADC and work for a guy named Sean Gaten. And I walked in and told Pat, I'm going to Hawaii, it's gonna be great. I hadn't even gotten my code off of my phone, right? And it was a 502 area code. So for the Army folks in the room, 502 was where? Fort Knox, Kentucky, Human Resources Command. My branch assignments officer. Hey, sir, got bad news. You're not going to Hawaii anymore. And whether that was for the reason he gave me or that was because whatever, I don't care. Didn't go to Hawaii. Instead, he's like, after a whole bunch of shenanigans, I ended up on the Joint Staff, which was okay. That'd be cool. Go work at the highest level of our headquarters in the DOD. That'd be neat. It was anything but neat. And it was probably the most brutal 2 years I have had in my career. We did this thing called the Missile Defense Review. And as the J5 Missile Defense Chief, I was the lead uniformed writer for the Joint Staff for that document, which is why I spent a lot of time in the principal's office with the chairman and the vice in that time. And that turned into 6 to 7 days a week, 12 to 18-hour days, working, trying to bring the community together to write that document. Worked a lot with JFIC because at the time, General Dickinson said, hey, this is important and we want on the inside of that. And so I got loaned some really great talent from JFIC to come out and work with me to help. But we produced that document, it was supposed to be the 2017 MDR, and then it became the 2018 MDR, and then eventually got released in 19. But at that point, it was the first missile defense review that was holistic. We talked about actually killing stuff instead of catching and shooting it down. We talked about really getting into offensive capabilities, got a lot different way of doing business. It was a great document at the time. The ones that have come since are even better, but that job almost killed me. Mark Kobos, who is here in the room, sat as the space guy on the other side of the cubicle wall from me, and he listened to me complain and get brutalized for that, but he got his because he got the birth of Space Force and Space Com after that. So all the time he made fun of me when he was going home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he got his soon thereafter. Mark, that was the start of a great friendship and some great teamwork for us over the years, and it's continued all the way through. And all these folks, and I'll keep a few more, but it's representative of a much larger crew of folks that have worked with me throughout my career, but I just want to point out some of the reps of them that are here. So I was done. I made 06, I didn't care, I was done, I was getting out of the Army, I quit, the Joint Staff ruined me, I wanted nothing to do with it, and then I got offered Germany.
and suddenly I wasn't done anymore. And the opportunity to go to Germany was something Patty and I wanted to do our entire career. And the two-star that came and talked to me, I was like, it's great, you're gonna go over there, all they do is exercises. You're gonna work for this guy named Cavoli, he's pretty cool, but you're just gonna get to travel around, it's great, there's nothing going on in Europe, it'll be fine. And here we go. So rolled over to Germany, got there in July. In October, my boss, the guy at the time again, Sean Bernabe, called me and goes, hey Tim, any reason I can't send you to Turkey? You need me other than I don't want to go, sir? And so I ended up leaving in beginning of November to southern Turkey, where I was leading all the EUCOM support to operations in Syria. And at the time we had something called, we were standing up joint operations with the Turks in a place called Manbij. The U.S. part kind of went here, the Turks were here, and we had a lot of friction between the two nations going on at the time. One of it was our partners were Kurds, Turks don't like the Kurds, so it was a pretty tense situation. And I went and led a team in that kind of worked of how are we gonna operate together and not shoot each other. And that went on for about 8 months, and got back, and I apparently either did well enough or poorly enough that I then got to stand up the Future Operations Cell, the G35, and there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. The attacks on Soleimani happened at that point, and so we had a lot of work going there. And then this thing called COVID rolled around, and as the FUOPS chief, the three at the time basically was like, yeah, Tim, figure out how we're going to do a summer PCS season and bring in 50,000 US service members and families in the middle of lockdown in Germany. So we planned that thing out, and that was a nightmare. I was actually in Israel. This was the start of also my Israel experience when COVID hit. I was on the last flight from Tel Aviv, walking through the Tel Aviv airport, nobody in the airport. So if you ever flown through Tel Aviv, you know how crazy that airport is. And I could hear my shoes echoing off the walls because there was nobody there. It was pretty awkward. 93 days later, I emerged from hiding because they put me in isolation with the team. So if the headquarters went down, the team I was at with the general officer was still up, we could keep operating. We came out, we went through a PCS season, it kind of worked. And then I got bumped up to be the Deputy 3. And, one of the things I've found throughout my career is when you're a second of anything, an XO, a deputy, whatever, when your boss goes on leave, bad things happen. And so we're working, and General Meyer was there at that point. General Meyer went on some very well-deserved leave. He was back home, and then this little thing about the fall of Kabul kind of kicked off. And General Cavoli called me in his office, and he's like, hey, Tim, how rapidly can we build capacity to process and house Afghan refugees? Oh, sure, we'll figure it out. And over the next 2 weeks, we built and processed 80,000 Afghan refugees and processed through Ramstein Air Base. About 6 days into it, I hadn't been home at all. General Cavoli comes and goes, hey, do I need to go call John Meyer back to work? And I'm like, sir, that's your call. If I'm doing okay, let it be. If you want him back. And if I remember right, General Cavoli did not call the boss back. He let him stay on some much needed leave, and he just kept letting me keep getting beat up. But that was one of the more proud events I've had, because I watched not just the military, but I watched the entire military community come together. And again, 80,000 in about a little over 2 weeks, we brought in out of Afghanistan, housed them, processed them, cleared them, forward moved most of them somewhere, not all of them. But it was not just the military grabbing every tent, sleeping bag, and cot in Europe, but it was family members filling trucks full of winter clothes. This was the fall. Going from Afghanistan to Germany in the winter is not a great experience. Just family members filling trucks full of clothes and diapers and everything else, and taking care of those people as they came through. So that went through, and actually, I was supposed to leave for, what was happening when I was supposed to leave for Italy? It wasn't that. There was something else that was before I was supposed to leave for Italy. I kept getting delayed to leave. I don't know what it was. I don't remember. There was something, I was supposed to be in Italy in like July. No, I guess, I don't know what it was. there was something else going on. Maybe it was Afghanistan, and I just kept not leaving and not leaving. Finally got to Italy. And for the headquarters in Italy, we don't actually do Europe, we're Africa. If you've never worked Africa, it's interesting. And so I had the opportunity to go down and, oh yeah, also USRA, I forgot one. Miss Tabbert at the time had the unfortunate or fortunate job of being General Meyer and my admin assistant out in the front. And so at that point in time, working really hard. Jess was really good about making sure the boss and I ate every day. And had she not, we probably would have been in trouble, because she usually kept food in her desk, and she'd know when I started getting angry, she'd throw a candy bar or something as I walked by and remind me to go eat the lunch that Patty sent for me. Got down to CTAF, work in Africa, which is a whole nother world. Mr. Cuniff was up at the higher headquarters as the XO at the 3 at that time, as a G3 down at CTAF, interacted with him a lot. And Africa's a lot going on. And I learned all about non-combatant evacuations. We executed a couple of those. Learned a lot about embassy reinforcement. Learned how big Africa is, and you don't get anywhere in a timely manner. It was faster to fly back to Europe and back to Africa than usually to fly between two capitals that might be neighboring, just because of the way logistics and roads work. But it was a great experience. The other cool thing about CTAF is it has a small airborne element. And so at 49 years old, I got the opportunity to go get thrown out of an airplane again. And did that for a couple of years, and I'm pretty fortunate. One of my teammates is here, Dylan Francis, Staff Sergeant Francis, was one of those high-speed jump masters that got to go take a dude that hadn't jumped in 15 years and remind me how to fall out of an airplane again. And it took two of them, and it took us almost all day to go back through refresher training, but I managed to go exit an aircraft quite often again while I was on that assignment. And had a lot of great opportunities and a lot of great experience down there. But my time was coming to a close, and I had the choice either retire out of Europe or try to find another job. And Dan Cardler called me and said, "Hey Tim, I got two jobs. I need your full one of them. You can go to Huntsville and be the chief of staff, or you can go to Colorado Springs and be the deputy for Jiffy." I gave Patty the two options, and we came to Colorado. And frankly, this is where I wanted to go, because this is a great organization that really punches above its weight class, and it always has. And so to all my JIFIC teammates here, it has been a hell of a 2 years. You know, we made the transition to Spacecom right before I arrived, and we've really kind of helped bring a higher headquarters that does space, to teach them that, hey, you have other missions you gotta do too. We did that to varying degrees of success. I won't say it was perfect, and I still won't say it's perfect. But we helped a higher headquarters absorb a new mission and try to take that on. A lot of hard work, a lot of anger, a lot of disappointment in some instances, but the team really worked hard and came together. Worked through a lot of great things that we did. Missile defeat, the concept that went with that we handed over to the joint staff. You know, if you look at today, so one of the problems you got is missile defense is really expensive. To shoot a missile with a missile costs a lot of money. It's a lot cheaper to blow up that missile on the ground. And it's even cheaper if you can mess that missile up so it never leaves the launch pad. And so the J5 team led some great work to do that, and that is something that's gonna get inculcated across the department now. Who's gonna execute it? I don't know. Still think it should have been us. Decision was made otherwise, but that somebody's gonna go take that work. And more recently, as we made the decision with Golden Dome coming on board, how do we help the nation operationalize Golden Dome? And some momentum going to make JIFIC IMD a key component to how that will work going forward. But in this time for JIFIC, not only my great teammates at JIFIC and true professionals, there was folks that had been at JIFIC since it stood up, some in the room, Matt Quinn, who I've worked with for a long time, but we've got you know, all the great JIFIC teammates that are here and that aren't here today, because we've got folks on the watch right now. And if I'm sure everybody see the news, started, you know, yesterday afternoon and all the way through the time I walked in here, missiles in the air. And our watch right now is watching every single one of those, working every single one of those missile launches, both blue, green, and red, and reporting on it. I was reading the reports of General Whiting just before I left the house. That our team is on point right now for the nation and for our command for what's going on across the globe in the missile world. But JIFIC doesn't do it alone. Our great teammates over at SMDC, General Gainey, General Brooks, some teammates in here that I've worked with over the years that have been 100th Missile Defense Brigade folks or whatever else. The other Timothy R. Schaefer, Air Defense, that we have been trading each other's emails for going on, I think, a good 26 years at this point. That hey, I think this one's yours. Hey, this one's definitely yours. And then he retired and got quiet for a little bit. Now it'll be fun because I have no intention of having a gov email here to them, so it's all yours at this point. Spacecom teammates that are in, and there's a few of them that have come that showed up today, and then our Missile Defense Agency teammates. And MDA, of course, is the developers of everything that we do, and so I really appreciate our MDA teammates coming in. And I know I'm going long, so I'm gonna try to work through this last part will be the harder part. So talked about my uniform teammates, but I've got some other folks I want to recognize real quick, and that's some other friends. And I've got one friend that's in the town with her family right now. Jill and I have known each other since grade school. Just both ended up out here in Colorado at the same time, but Jill and her, I see Addie, Jill and Addison are here today. But you know, friendships from high school, friendships from your life matter. And it's really cool, Jill. I really appreciate you and Addie coming today, tracking the rest of it. But thank you for being here and making the effort today. And then, of course, some other friends that are here. Darren's still here. So one of the neat things about being in uniform is you get in some other organizations, you get in some other communities, and there's a fairly prolific shooting community for sports shooting and stuff like that. And I got to know Darren really well. And what Darren does, Darren's a contractor, does a lot of space stuff. He's project engineer, does a lot of really cool stuff. But his side gig is he sews nylon, tactical nylon for like tactical gear. So as a guy that maneuvers and plays Army occasionally, I've gone on a couple of deployments now with kit that Darren actually developed or sewed for me. But Darren been a good friend every time I got back to the Springs. We got together, and I don't think Bill and Claudia made it. I don't see her anywhere. So, and then of course neighbors. For all this military, we move a lot, and Patty, I've been really fortunate. Everywhere we've gone, we've landed with really great neighbors, and so representative of that for us over our career, Randy and Julie, our current neighbors that are joined us today. I appreciate it. All right, here's the hard one. Let me see if I can get through all this in a somewhat professional manner. Blessed today that my in-laws Rick and Sue made the trip out, and I've known Rick and Sue and Patty and Marcia since I moved to Pontiac when I was 7th, 8th grade. Or no, way earlier, 7 or 8 years old. My mom was the secretary of their church, did Bible school, summer school, everything with my mom at the church. That's where I got to know the Hyatts. So I've known them for a long time. Tried to date their daughter all through junior high and high school. She wanted nothing to do with me. So that's a whole other story we'll talk about in a few minutes. But since we've been in the military, Rick and Sue have been biggest fans and huge supporters of us, traveling great distances to come see us. There for a lot of ceremonies and always been super supportive. So thank you both from the bottom of my heart for the support to both Patty and I and make the trip out. And then of course, Patty's sister Marcia, husband Dave, and the 3 kids that are here, Maddie, Ella, and Garrick, again, have traveled all over the world to come see us and spend time with us. And I've kept Patty away from a lot with the family over the years, and I have been there for a lot. And so for all of you, thank you for being here. And so proud of all 3 of you as we got to watch both the girls graduate this year, one from college, one from high school, and I'm proud of everything you guys have accomplished. And then out there in Facebook Live land, my sister-in-law Bethany and my brother and their 3 kids, Peyton, Braden, and Colton. Amazing family. As you all know, lost my brother soon after I got to the command, and you know, it hurts having been gone for so much of that, missed so much of the time with Steve. But Bethany is amazing. Took care of him when he was down for so long, and then has just done a great job. And the 3 kids are so, you know, we talk about military kids being resilient, and I look at those 3 and they're the same. And everything they went through, wish they'd been able to make the trip out, but you know, baseball, sports, getting ready for college, music. The kids are, you know, kids at that age are super busy. So they're out there with my mom right now. And then of course my mom can't make the travel out, and Mom gave up everything for Steve and I to make sure we had a better life, and we had every opportunity out there. And again, biggest fan, traveled when she was able to promotions and change of commands and moves and help us put houses together and all the other things that our families do. And then, these last few years haven't been what she wanted, but she continues to persevere through it. And Mom, I love you. I wish you could be here. All right, last one. Probably should have done this one first, but that's all right. 30 years of doing this in uniform, you don't do it alone. And having that one person to go home to at night that knows when to listen, knows when to tell you to shut up, gets dinner on the table, makes the plans because you're never there to do it. And that has been Patty. Taking care of our families when we deploy. The deployment to Afghanistan was really cool for those of us in uniform. Well, where I really screwed up, in a 90-day time, it's really hard to get everything right. I accepted risk in the absolute wrong spot. Because I had great commanders that had the rest of it. I accepted risk in my rear detachment, my families. I kind of dropped the ball, but I had a superstar that picked it up and took care of our families over in Oregon. Hence why Spouse of the Year at Fort Campbell when we got back. Babe, all the missed meals, broken promises. Thank you. I'm gonna dump it all over. That's enough. You've all listened to me, and hopefully for the team, that's the last time you gotta do that. You gotta actually listen to me get up here and babble for a while. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You honor me by making the trip in. For those of you that traveled such long distances. I made a joke in a staff meeting yesterday that I'm gonna turn my work cell phone in here shortly, and if I actually wanna talk to you, you've already got my personal cell phone. That was partially tongue in jest. Please, if you don't have my personal contact info, make sure you get it, because I do want to stay in touch with everybody. And again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for the time today, and thank you for listening to me babble. And Chief, please get us out of here.
This concludes today's ceremony. On behalf of the men and women of the United States Armed Forces and the Joint Functional Component Command for Integrated Missile Defense, thank you all for joining us in celebrating the retirement of Colonel Schaefer. Please stand and remain standing for the singing of the Air Defense Artillery March and the Army Song, and remain standing for the departure of the official party.
March along, sing our song, we're the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're the army and proudly proclaim. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's hi, hi, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong.
Please join Colonel Retired Schaefer and his family for refreshments in the back of the room. Thank you all and have a great day.